Yes, on.
Okay, we've got the recording, we've got the AI. This meeting is officially called to order at 7:32 p.m. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. And
Marty,
yes, ma'am.
fix the camera. We can only see your forehead.
The top of
The
your head.
camera
Well, yeah,
doesn't
but
work
that's
very well.
No,
Well,
it
you
okay. There we
doesn't.
go. You're cool.
Well, sort of.
Yeah, a little
Anyway,
That's
better.
good. That's fine.
okay. Um, and first item of business is approval of the minutes and other administrative items. And then we're going to get right into the logistics for the election day, May 6th, tomorrow. So, Michael, thank you for being with us to go over that. Those are pretty important, and there's a lot going on tomorrow. I did look at the weather report, and it looks like we will not be rained out. It won't look like today, so yay, team. Um, okay, first item of business, approval of minutes. Elizabeth, thank you again for doing an excellent job. Does anyone
You're
have
welcome.
any changes in the minutes? Okay, they're in the packet, and if there are no changes, then I would ask for a motion to approve them.
Motion.
Okay, Larry moves. Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Thank you, done. The only other administrative item I have at the moment is that I have been monitoring any incoming information from voters on our VMA elections email. And so far, we've had 3 requests for replacement ballots. And 2 of them were people who didn't get their ballot on Bradley, and 1 is on Melville. Interestingly, the one on Melville is Susan Fattig, our council member's husband, did not get his ballot. So in each case, I've responded very quickly to say that the election committee, thank you for telling the election committee, we will have the contractor send a replacement ballot ASAP. And folks have thanked us for getting back to them very quickly on that. So that's administrative, and I will continue to monitor to see if anyone else comes in to say that they didn't get a ballot, because we can, instruct Electech to do replacement ballots right through the 13th, which is the last possible day to get a ballot and still receive it in time to vote it and mail it back. Any questions about that?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Did anyone hear a news report about the impact of Trump administration changes to the U.S. Postal Service having an impact on reduced services in the next few weeks? Jeffrey said he thought he heard something to that effect. I just wanted to double check it with you, since all those people's ballots will be coming in, and hopefully that, we won't have a problem. But if that really is happening, I don't know what it was. I didn't get the report, but I just wondered if anybody had heard such a news report.
There is concern among the postal workers about that. I know this from some of my union contacts. Um, and so far, nothing definitive, but it's certainly
Okay.
possible. Which brings
Yeah.
me to my first question in terms of logistics to Michael, which is the ballot tracking. We have Electec doing the ballot tracking on the return envelopes, right? Looks to me like they put it on the test envelopes and on our actual ballots. And have you opened up that ballot tracking program to see um, any results of it yet?
No, I have not personally gone in and seen those, but I thought they were all automatically coming to your email address. So weren't you?
Yeah, I don't mind being the contact. I'm glad to be the contact for that, but I haven't received anything that shows the tracking. So whatever that where the tracking software is supposed to report to me or to you or to both of us,
Okay.
it's not reporting anything. I have nothing from them. So
Wait a
it's
minute.
on the envelopes. The tracking
Wait a
appears
minute,
to be on the
Marty.
envelopes, but I'm not getting any reports.
Excuse me.
Yes, go ahead, Larry.
Do I have this correct? The tracking of the ballots, that information, which is one of the primary functions of the committee, is being given to the village manager?
No, Michael needs to do the technical logistics to make sure that that software reports the tracking to us, to the committee, or to me, on behalf of it.
You should be able to do that.
Well, I have not been able to do it. Last year, Michael did a good job of setting it up so that I could do it. I got all the tracking reports last year.
Larry,
You,
that's a
look,
debate.
we're the ones
Larry,
responsible. Hold on
Larry,
a minute.
that's a
We're the
debate
ones
we've had in the past.
responsible for
Hey, hold on,
anything that goes
hold on,
wrong
Nomi.
with
Let
that.
Larry finish, then I'll come to you.
We're the
Larry,
ones, we're the ones that are responsible for anything that goes wrong with that.
That's
Larry, we've
true.
had this debate before. Let's not bring it up again.
We need to simply solve a logistical issue right now. And Michael will be on it, I'm sure, to make sure that we get the tracking reports. Um, and, you know, again, let's, Elizabeth, go ahead.
You know, you sent us, we all got those sample ballots at the
Mhm.
beginning. So
Yes.
I sent mine back. It was a little late, but I did send it back. So just so that you know, and is that supposed to generate a tracking report? And
It should have.
I wrote test on it, you know, in the
Yes.
inside and on the outside as well.
That's exactly correct. And
Uh-huh.
yes, and I have not seen any tracking reports on our test
Okay,
ballots
all
or
right,
on any of the current ballots because people are starting to mail them back, of course, as soon as they received them. And
yeah.
people received them as early as last Friday. So,
Mhm.
Michael, if you would just untangle the technology on that to make sure that we get the reports. And um, I am more than happy to be the point person receiving that tracking data. Um,
Okay. I'll log back into the system and make sure it's set up right
okay, thank you.
and tell you where that report's going.
Yeah, yeah. If it's going to someplace else, we need
Well,
to find out.
I know, Nikki needed to be able from Electech needed to be able to see it so that they could print off the labels. So, I set them up with it, and we're paying for it, of course.
Right.
So I'm sure the report's just buried in an email box somewhere.
Okay. Well, thank you. I will look
Wait a
forward
minute.
to.
So I don't understand. Are you saying that it will self-generate periodic reports?
Yes, when a ballot gets mailed that has
Mhm.
this tracking system on this software that we use, that we
Okay.
asked Electech to use, and that Michael set up with Electech, and thank you, Michael, for doing that. Again, tech support. What it does is it records when if you mailed your ballot, it would record that it went to the Bethesda post office, for example. And then it would record when it went through the Philadelphia postal facility, the sorting
Right.
facility. And then it will record a report when it arrives in New Jersey
Mhm.
at the post office that Electech uses. So there will be 3 data points that show
I know,
your
but
ballot
that's not
number.
my question. The
All right, what was your
question is,
question?
I thought I was hearing that the software generates periodic reports that are emailed. The question was, what do we know now about what's tracking has occurred? Good
At the moment, I
example.
haven't seen anything from the tracking software.
Okay, but the conversation was going as if there were emails being generated that were being automatically sent to you, or possibly that was the intent, but they hadn't been set up successfully yet. So the question is, does it generate those kind of reports?
It generates an item by item report for each letter that it tracks. It's not a summary report. It's an item by item report for each envelope.
And does it send them out, or what happens?
Exactly the same way it worked last year. So it's the exact same system. I believe you found it, Larry. So I thought,
I found it, I didn't operate it.
Yeah. Well, I did use it last year, and it generated again the data points on each envelope at each point where that envelope had been scanned by a postal facility. So it was quite voluminous. I mean, each ballot return envelope might have 3 or 4
Oh,
data points on the sheet. And I went
yeah.
through systematically and made sure that if a ballot was shown as being mailed in Bethesda or Silver Spring from us, that it ended up actually arriving in New Jersey. It took a little time. It was not a great system in terms of summary reports. It was a very thorough system in terms of the data points where that envelope was tracked at each step along the process. So Michael's familiar. You looked at it last year. We just don't have any reports coming from that software this year.
I'll check on that.
Okay, thank you. Um, it should start with, as Elizabeth said, the initial test ballots that we sent back a couple weeks ago should be the first tracking entries. Okay? Anything else on the tracking system? And again, it is important because there have been so many scores of lawsuits about, you know, what election officials do when ballots are stuck in a post office somewhere and haven't been delivered in time. Okay, anything else in terms of administrative on that or other issues? Okay. Well, going down to our review of our work schedule, we are rolling here right down the train line here into the final stages of this process. And I want to thank everybody here for all the hard work you've put in over these past many months. and go to the logistics for the election day table in Dropbox on May 6th. Okay, and Michael, we had asked Electech to send us an email to confirm that in writing that they would have the Dropbox here by 4 or 4:30 tomorrow, and that they would have a staffer to pick up the sealed envelopes. And we never got an email from Eclectic, but I take it you did talk to Nikki or email to her directly yourself?
Yeah, I talked to Nikki again this morning and I asked her to send an email to the entire committee, just saying that that yes, the Dropbox will be there, and the driver will be in the area because they're working one other election in the area that day. So they'll remain in the area and then pick up the box. They're gonna drop it off by 4 o'clock, and pick it up after 8, shortly after 8.
That
Uh,
sounds exactly right.
so
And
I
we never,
don't think Nikki actually sent that email though, did she?
no, we never received it.
Okay.
Um,
And I know the one other thing that she had a replacement ballot that you had requested. She did respond to that one and said that she would do that first thing tomorrow morning. So
Yeah, and that's good. And we have now received a third request for a replacement ballot, also from Bradley. So apparently whoever was doing the
Oh,
mail
okay.
sorting on Bradley didn't do a great job of it. But three ballots not delivered out of 622 um, is, a pretty small percentage. It indicates generally that the mail ballots did arrive on time. And Eclectic, I
At,
have to say for the
at
record, did a
least,
good
at,
job of mailing them out on the 23rd on time. They mailed them on time.
at least nobody else complained.
You're right. Only three people have reported not receiving a
Right,
ballot.
right.
And we
So,
put out there several times, Michael has posted, if you didn't receive your ballot, get in touch ASAP. And so
do
far,
they
three people
know,
have.
do they know what to do now if they get two ballots?
Yes, in each case, I've responded to the voter by saying that if your original ballot does eventually arrive, to discard it and vote the replacement ballot.
Yes, that was the email you sent us, that we were copied on, so I understand that.
Yeah.
right.
And Nikki knows, in my email to her saying to cancel the security number on the first ballot so that,
Right.
it's
All
it's
those
not going.
instructions were in your email.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I try to be thorough.
Yeah,
It is-
so we don't need to revisit that. I'm just trying to be efficient with our meeting.
Okay, moving on along. We need the election committee to be at our table by like 4:30, 4:45, because 5 o'clock is when we rock and roll. And
All of us?
well, all of us should be there because we have to have at least two people at that table the entire time because we have a legal responsibility to supervise that Dropbox. It
So
cannot
why
be,
four, but Marty,
well, because, people can take a break. You can take a break. So if you
I
want to
think we
do,
should have a schedule to
Okay.
turn, just like we did last year.
Okay, so problem
last year
is
we had
I'm-
5 people and we could have 2 at the table and one going to the bathroom or going to get a drink. This year we have 4 people, so we need 2 at the table,
Yeah.
at all times.
So
Larry, you were going to say?
tomorrow I'm having some major oral surgery, top and bottom.
Oh, gosh.
And I hope he says so he's putting me under. So he says that I should be
Ah,
capable around 3:30 or 4. So
oof.
that's
I
what I'm
don't think we should plan on Marty being,
No,
on
no, I don't
Larry
think so.
being there.
Well, what I was thinking about is number one, I'm going to do my best, but what I'm really shooting for is when we have to do any, not so much the work at the table, but the work we have to do upstairs afterward.
We're not going upstairs.
That's not tomorrow, right?
Okay,
That's
Are we
what
do-
you're referring to, Larry, let me just clarify for everybody.
the 21st.
The regs require Larry and me as the chair and vice chair of this committee to
Right.
certify the voter roll, the official voter roll.
Yeah.
After 8 p.m. The voter roll is open till 8 p.m. We can add new voters till 8 p.m. and then we close it for the year. That's it. That's the
Right.
official voter roll. And Larry and I have to fill out a form that says that we certify this is the accurate voter roll and that it was used in this election. Larry, we could do that the next day. We
Well,
don't have to do that at 8 p.m. that night. What
I
we need to do at
intend to
8 p.m.
be
that
there.
night is certify the ballot security
I,
and get
I
them to
intend,
Eclectic.
I intend to be there. I'm just letting people know there may have to be some flexibility.
Okay,
Of
so
course.
that means
And if
they're
I
going,
talk funny, hey, the best part is if I talk funny, I'll have to shut up. Woo.
No way. No
No.
way.
so that means there are three of us.
Right.
Right, so what you're saying is there has to be by what? We have to be, two of us have to be there at all times?
Yes, two of us need to cover that box.
Okay, so we do have to have three of us in case one of us has to go to the bathroom, is that what you're saying?
That's basically it. We'll have sandwiches. I'm sure the folks on the staff and on the engagement committee will bring us a bottle of water if we need it. But we really cannot leave that Dropbox unsupervised legally. It's just a requirement
Two
in
of
terms of
us, two of us.
two of us.
Is there any reason you want to appoint uh, uh, another person?
We could have a temporary election committee member if we had gone through the council and asked them for it. We did not do that. And I don't know who we would have asked. I mean, we could have certainly maybe John Sherrow or somebody,
Maybe we
but
could ask Arthur to pitch in case one of us has to go to the bathroom.
well, technically, council members are not election officials
Right.
who are
Okay.
authorized to certify that the ballot box was secured at all times.
Okay.
And neither is staff, unfortunately. It says
Yeah.
election officials
Right.
have to supervise the ballot box.
Listen, so we're talking about 4 hours for us, right? Because it's from
Yes.
4 to 8.
Well,
Yeah,
well, 5 to 8. It's 3 hours, Elizabeth, but we need to be there by 4:45 for sure. So it's 3
Okay.
hours and a few minutes.
All right. I get home at 4. I'm going to be at dialysis with Jeffrey, and we get home at 4. So I have to get him situated in a safe place with something to eat, and then I can come over, like, be at 5 and
For
hopefully
5-ish. Aim for
stay from
5.
then on.
Yeah, aim for 5, Elizabeth. If you can do 5 to 8, I
Yeah.
can do 5 to 8.
Okay.
And I'll be there like 4:45. And Nomi,
I'll be there at 4:45. There's a
that's
lot going
great.
on in my house, but I'll be there at 4:45.
Yeah.
You guys are
I-
just the best.
I'll just have to I'll get my daughter to come over after work to sit with Jeffrey. So,
Okay.
okay.
Tell Jeffrey we said hi, by the way.
So,
I will.
Yeah.
We're thinking of him.
yeah,
Thank you. I will
Elizabeth, if I'm okay, I mean, you can leave early.
All right. Well, we'll see, Larry. I mean, my
Yeah.
goodness, under the upper and lower oral surgery plus full anesthesia,
Yeah,
it takes a
he's gonna
while. So
do,
I don't
Yeah.
have to be a hero.
Yeah, he's gonna do implants, so we'll see.
Wow.
He's
Wait,
putting the Declaration of Independence here. And
And the Constitution
Absolutely.
up there.
And the Constitution. Hallelujah. Okay, guys. So we've got
You're
our
gonna keep
our
it secure.
Yes, absolutely. It matters. Okay, so we've got our manning and womaning of the
Oh,
table settled.
One last thing. Am I allowed to put our ballots in the Dropbox?
Yes, ma'am. You certainly can. I'm
Okay.
bringing mine and Bill's.
Okay, great.
And what happens at 8 o'clock is that we close the election voting roll officially.
Mhm.
Larry and I can do the paperwork on that the next morning. But what we have to do that night, like at 8:05, is we have the key to the Dropbox. We open the Dropbox as a committee, and it would be good to have all 4 of us there. And we count the number of envelopes twice that are deposited in the Dropbox. We record that number. We put the envelopes in large manila envelopes, and Michael, I think we talked about that you'll have a couple of those in our box. Last year, I think we needed 3 or 4 of them. Then each of us who's there from the committee signs across that sealed manila envelope that there are 25 ballots in that envelope, or 40 or whatever it is. And then we give the entire set of manila envelopes that enclose the ballot envelopes to the staffer from Electech, who then drives back to New Jersey with the Dropbox and with our sealed official delivery. So we have a secure chain of custody on the actual ballot envelopes, and that's the legal requirement, and it is serious that we do that. And again, it's not hard to do. It takes a few minutes only. And Larry, we can do the paperwork about certifying the voter roll in the morning afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take it as it goes, okay?
Yeah. See
My
how you feel.
hope and intention is to just get there and do it. But,
Yeah, if you
know,
can, that's great. And if not, we'll manage. The main thing is to get those envelopes, the voting ballot envelopes secured and in Electech's hands, like at 8:15 that
So-
night after we do the count.
So
anything else?
Electech's going to take it back to New Jersey,
Yes.
in their
Yes.
automobile. It doesn't go through the postal service at all.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay.
Hand delivered to the Electech staffer. Do we know, Michael, which staffer we're going to have?
I didn't ask that, but the driver is going to be there shortly after 8 to pick up the box and the envelopes. And then I have a question, Marty, as well. Along with the envelopes, which we already have in a crate for you waiting in the office. Is there any need for a printing of the voter roll as it currently stands, or the verification form? I believe that's in
Yeah, we're
one of the
going to need you to
folders?
print out the verification form that we used last year. I think that was fine. I don't remember needing any changes in it.
Okay.
And we also, it would be helpful, Michael. I was going to print out the voter roll, but it'd really be a help if you would, because it's 622 names. It's a little bit lengthy.
Yeah.
And if you wouldn't mind printing it out and just putting it in like a binder, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Okay. So I
and-
have voter roll verification form as well as the envelopes, which were already on the list. So
Great, thank you. And some felt tip pens, because people always ask for felt tip pens when
yeah, we have some good pens. I have a high preference for good pens, so we have some good
Thank
pens.
you. We appreciate your class act there, Michael. And you talked about having the little flags to put up there like you did last year, which was a nice touch, and the I voted stickers and all of that. And I'm just going to thank you right now for all the work you've been doing with the engagement committee on the rest of the sidewalk tables, which I'm sure is much bigger than our one table. So I know that's been a challenge. Are the scouts going to be there or not? Do the scouts get a table there this year?
I don't think so, Marty, no.
Yeah.
But the Community Engagement Committee has put together quite a collection of artists, resident artists, and we kind of broke it apart into 3 groups of kind of more, vendors, and then the resident artists, and then like the Friends of the Village. So I know the Historical Society will be there this year.
Oh, great.
Chevy Chase at Home will be there again this year. And
Mhm.
the one thing that I really want to promote and support is the Manna Food Drive. They come
Yeah.
in with box there every single year. So I'm planning to bring food to donate to that. I really want to make sure that that is supported. And this is the one event where we really kind of put them front and center. So an opportunity to give back by voting, and also an opportunity to give back to people that need food. So
That's terrific.
if the scouts do show up, right, there's no problem with us finding a space for them.
Michael?
I mean, it's a public event. Anyone's allowed to come.
No, I
Yeah,
mean,
but we
for
could
them to
probably, we
set
could get
up
a table for them or something if they do show up.
If the scout,
Keith and I talked about the scouts, and so I just didn't know if that got followed through on or
Michael
not.
just said they're not showing up, so why?
Well,
Okay.
why?
there's a final vendor list, so they're not on the final vendor list, so they're not one of our vendors.
So we don't need to worry about that.
So I'm not going out of my way to rent them a table and chairs and no.
Next,
Okay, if they didn't
Next
sign
item.
up, they didn't sign up. Okay, we'll pursue that further, Larry, next year. All right, anything else on May 6th? Any other questions on May 6th tomorrow?
Well, when
It's
do
actually
the-
kind of fun.
when do the vendors, when do they can they show up?
I've been telling people to get there if they need to set up their tables, like the artists and stuff. I told them they can come as early as 30 minutes before the event, so 4:30 they can start setting up.
Okay.
I will be there well before that, setting up the tables, and I have our contractor Wayne meeting me there at 3 to start setting up tables. So
Okay.
we're planning to be there from 3 until 9 o'clock or whenever you all finish up. So
We'll try to finish up early so you can go home. It's
well,
a
there
long
also
day.
be cleanup, and tables and stuff. So I'm building myself some extra time there. But
Yeah,
So
I have done
are
that
these-
cleanup in prior years. Yep.
So is it most all of this going to be on the front face, or is any of it going around the side, or how is that?
sorry, what?
The
I-
vendors, are they all going to be on the front face or is some of them going to be on the
It's going to be
side?
set up exactly like last year. I think we have the request for like 12 or 13 tables. I don't have that number in front of me. And so you all will be set up in the exact same location, kind of up against that wall towards Turner Lane.
Yep,
And
perfect.
all the vendors will close those parking spaces. All the artisans will be right there along the edge of the curb. And then the ice cream truck will be where the handicap spot is at the very end near Brook
Yeah,
Farmer.
down toward the Taylor Street end.
We also
Yeah.
have sandwiches coming from Olympia Cafe and music being played by the Chevy Chase Arts Academy. And so what we're going to set those, like the sandwich table, we're going to set up closer to the ice cream truck this year too.
Very good.
The
Very
one
good.
thing about there's no outlets on the outside of our office building. I'm not sure who knows that, but so I have to run an extension cord. So the music can only play wherever we set up wherever the extension cord will reach is where they
Uh-huh.
be set up.
I have
They're
a
the only ones
100-foot
that can
extension cord if
power.
you need one, Michael.
Yeah, we'll be rigging that system again. So
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
not doing. Last year we did a popcorn machine that I rented, and I was making popcorn for people, and then I burnt one of the popcorns. So we're not doing that this year. That was
That's just fine, Michael. That's just fine. Thank you for all of that support work to get people to come out. Last year, a third of the village who voted, a third of the voters used the drop box. So it really is obviously important for our voters, and getting people to come together and be part of this community effort is part of community building, which is one thing we all try to do. So anything else on May 6th from anybody? No? Yes? All right. Larry, good luck with the dental surgery. We'll be thinking of you. And like Elizabeth said, don't be a martyr here, we
So,
love you, but we don't want you,
yeah,
keel over.
Michael, if you have any glitches with the extension cord, because I have a server, you know what I mean, file server here. I have a really heavy duty, it's good for 7 hours, power supply system that can be just, taken outside. You understand? It's made for camping as well as other things. So we can, if you
Well, that's
need
nice to know.
it'll give you power and everything right wherever you're going to generate the music.
You mean it's like a generator?
Yeah, it's about I don't know, 12 by 16 by 14 inches high. It gives you 7 hours of 10 amps.
Hmm.
So if we need it.
I think we'll be okay setting up the way we did last year. The office, I purchased for the office a good extension cord, so we should
All right.
should be fine.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
All right,
I do like those little batteries. That's
So
good.
I think we should keep going on the agenda, guys.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's
Yes,
go.
ma'am. Anything else on May 6th? Going, gone. Okay. Logistics for the vote counting session on May 21st. Michael, you will need to set up again the tech support there for the Zoom viewing with Eclectic and test it with me, and us beforehand, obviously. So let us know. Set it up like an hour
The
in advance so
Zoom
we can.
meeting's already been created for that vote counting session, and I thought you had shared it in one of your articles, the actual link to that meeting. So
No, we haven't shared the Zoom link to the vote counting yet.
okay, well, maybe
I
we
haven't
just have to save the date for that in there.
Yeah, we just have the date for that, but we will need to share it in the future announcements as we get closer to that.
Yep.
On the 21st. And we need to obviously test the logistics to make sure that we, as a committee from our homes, have a very clear view of Eclectic. It worked fine the last couple of years. I mean, we were able to see the ballots clearly and see the process and supervise it clearly. So we just need to do what we did before. But you'll need to test it to make sure it works again this year. Anything else on May 21? We decided as a committee to start at 7 p.m. And Michael, I think you communicated that to Electec. Okay. And thank you for being available at 7 p.m. on another Tuesday evening or whatever evening it is, whatever May 21st is.
How long did that take last year?
About 2 hours, but it depends entirely on the number of people who vote. When we have 400 voters, it takes longer, obviously. But it
And do
shouldn't
we
be more
do
than
any ballot curing at that time?
No, what we do for the ballot curing is there are 2 steps that we have to adjudicate, we as a committee. The first thing that Eclectic does in the counting process is look at the envelopes. So say like we have 250 envelopes that came in from people. They haven't been opened yet. And most of them will be just fine. People who have signed that little form in the back, they'll be just fine. if there are any ballot return envelopes that weren't signed or that have some other abnormality, those the committee looks at on the Zoom image and tells the Electech staff to put those aside on a side pile. And so there may be, 3 or 4 of those, or there may be none. If all the ballot return envelopes are fine, then boom, we go to the next step, which is we give Electech the instruction to open the return envelopes. And so they do a quick process where they open all the envelopes and they have now a stack of the outer return envelopes and a stack of the inner privacy envelopes. And they kind of swish the inner privacy envelopes around on the table to change the order of them so that they're anonymous. And then we give them the instruction to open the privacy envelopes, which they do. And then they take out the ballots and they smooth out the ballots, they flatten out the ballots. And at that point, we give them the instructions to go ahead and start feeding the ballots into the machines that do the ballot counting. And there will be a handful of ballots that are not machine countable. The dog chewed on them or something. The kids spilled chocolate milk on them, whatever. So again, we have a stack that go through the machine, get counted, and that's like watching paint dry. The machine goes ka-chunka, ka-chunka, and they have 2 different machines, so it's pretty speedy, maybe an hour, as they feed the ballots into the machine to be read.
Is this on
And
the 21st?
on the 21st, yeah, that evening, starting at 7. And then
Wait,
we
wait,
yeah,
what,
go ahead.
on the hour, didn't we have a discussion online about that and
Yeah, we decided on
agreed to
7 p.m.
6:30? I thought
We
it was
decided
6:30.
we
Because we
had a split. Nomi wanted 7:30,
And you
others of us
wanted
wanted
6.
6:30,
And so,
and the compromise was 7 p.m.
I thought it was
No, we
6
decided on
o'clock.
7. It was the
Yeah,
latest
7
email
p.m.
from Marty.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you again. 7 p.m. was the compromise. We did 6:30 and 7:30. We picked 7. And thank you guys again for being there. Anyway, we need to be there right at 7. Obviously, a few minutes early on the Zoom would be helpful, just so we can make sure that we can see, clearly the Zoom visuals and hear clearly what the elected staff are saying. So we should plan on being there like 10 minutes before 7. We as a committee, and Michael, if you could set that up, that would be helpful. We should just
In the office,
no,
No,
on
no,
our Zoom.
no.
at home.
At
Okay.
home, but on the Zoom, there will be a Zoom
Yeah,
link. We
yeah.
all need to
Okay.
check in. And
right.
then Michael will be doing that Zoom for the vote counting from the office. And thank you, Michael, for that. Anyway, so Larry, to go back to the process. So first we adjudicate the ballots. If all the ballots are fine, no sweat. We go straight to the process of opening the ballots and having the machine counts. At the end of the machine count, we as a committee need to adjudicate any non-machine countable ballots.
Taxes are gonna go up 68%.
I don't know who's got anyway, thank you for turning that off. And there is typically a couple of ballots that can't be read at least. And some of them may be ambiguous. And one of the reasons I included the report on the vote count in our packet for this meeting, I don't know if you all have looked at the packet, but take a look at last year's vote, because there were a number of envelopes where people wrote comments in instead of writing in a name. There are going to be some issues perhaps where it's not clear who the write-in name is, and we're going to need to talk about it. And at each of these points where we adjudicate, whether it's an envelope being adjudicated at the outset or a ballot that we're trying to read at the ballot counting process, the candidates or their representatives, one each, have the right to object to any decision that we make. And the best example of that I can give you is Katie objected in 2023. None of us were on the committee that year, but the committee that year has set a ballot due date that was the day before the vote counting. And I believe 4 ballots came in the day of the vote counting. So they were physically on hand at Electech. And Katie said, objecting as a candidate that year, that she would like those 4 ballots to be included, to be counted. And the committee stuck with the letter of the regs and said, no, they didn't come in time for the day before, so we're not going to count them, which now we have corrected that in the regs. The regs now say that we count every ballot that's there in time to be counted. So there won't be that kind of problem again. We won't have any disqualified ballots because they arrived the day before instead of the day of. We're good. So we solved that problem already. But who knows? I mean, what other issues we maybe see when we look at a ballot and try to read it. And then the final step of it is the elected goes through the stacks of ballots and gives us a list, a reading by hand of the names of all the people who got write-in votes and the number of votes they got. So we will have a write-in list. And you can see I put in the write-in report in our packet for this meeting. So you can see last year there was a lot of write-ins. I have no idea how many write-ins there'll be this year. So, we'll find out. And once we have the write-in report, we then, ask Electric any questions we have about anything that's not clear to us as a committee. And they go back that night and double check all their numbers and counts and give us a written report the next day. It's called the official count of ballot report. We will get that from them the next morning. Michael, do you have any questions about any of this in terms of your part in it? You just need to keep us all functioning on the Zoom where we can see what's going on and talk to them.
This is the exact same as last year. Do we record that session? I forget.
Yes, please. Yes, please. It is recorded. They recorded it at Eclectic, I think, the first time we did it. But I think we recorded it last year from our end as well. So do plan on doing that, please. Okay, and at the end of the day, we have an unofficial ballot count.
Is there any logistical issue? Like right now, this Zoom meeting, this can only be recorded by one entity unless Michael's end, right? Michael, you would have to give anyone else permission to record, right?
The Zoom records all of our meetings and stores it to their cloud, and then I download it.
Yes, but it also has the ability that if another party here says, I would like to have a recording of the meeting, the host can provide that permission. Without that permission, they can't do it. So we just want to make sure that's not going to be, that Electech is recording and we can't make our recording as well.
No, I will be recording. I don't know if Electech will record on their end or not, but I'll
We
record
generally do for their own, business security reasons. But yes, Michael, if you will record it for VMA. Larry, do you want Michael to be able to let you record it as well?
No, that's not my point. My point is that if Electech is doing it and they're not prepared to let us have be able to activate recording on our end, we may not be able to.
It's my Zoom meeting, so I can record it. It's not their Zoom recording.
So yeah, it may be that Electech's got to get permission from us then.
They normally record their own in-house, in-office record for, like I said, for their business purposes.
Yeah.
But yes, Michael, thank you for taking care of the tech stuff there. Anything else about the 21st? Well, if we start at 7, I think we'll probably be done by 9, but I can't guarantee that because I have no idea, what may occur. If it all goes smoothly, we could be done by 8.
I fully expect a low turnout because there are no contested seats.
Exactly. And people are so distracted this year by all the other stuff going on at the federal level that it's just, all the villages, when I talk to my election official counterparts at other villages, everybody is dealing with a voting population that is woefully diverted and distracted by their own job security and everything that's going on in terms of human rights and everything else. So everybody's expecting low turnout this year. And we should not take it personally. It's just where we are in life.
So anything else on the 21st?
Nothing for me. Any questions? And again, y'all should feel free to call me if you have any questions about the process. Michael, we are doing exactly the same process we did last year for the regs. And if Eclectic has any questions about that, I'm always happy to talk to them. All right, so extend the offer if they're not clear on what we need them to do from their part. I think they know the ropes.
So Marty, you said at the end of the process, we'll have an unofficial ballot.
We'll have an unofficial count of the ballots. We'll have an unofficial list of write-in votes and names, and we'll have perhaps a handful of ballot return envelopes that we need to cure, that somebody didn't sign, if somebody forgot to sign it. And again, there's a really simple process for that. It's in the regs. It worked really well last year, where suppose there are 3 people who forget to sign their outer envelope. Well, Eclectic still has the envelopes. We don't have the envelopes, but we know who those voters are because they have the number on it and the address. Eclectic can tell us it's Joe Smith on, Chestnut Street, didn't sign his. So then we have a form that we fill out, which I have a copy of it, a very simple form that it's an alternative form that they can sign, that voter can sign, an affidavit that we can walk over. Last year I took it on a clipboard, walked it over to the one voter who didn't sign. He signed it, filled it out, boom. We could then send, once we had that signed form from the voter, clarifying that it was his ballot and he did in fact send it in. Then the election committee sent Electic an instruction to open that voter's unopened ballot, which is still sitting up in New Jersey, and add their votes to the vote count for the total. Right. And the voter has 5 days to sign that form. We did it the next day last year. I just trotted over to the guy's house with
All
the
right,
form.
so
Yeah.
Marty, just so if you set it up, any of those, or all of them, I'll be more than happy to go to the individual houses and get the signature.
Oh, that's terrific. Thank you. Take you up
Right.
on that offer. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Margie was happy to carry me over there, so
Depends on how your surgery went
Yeah.
and whether I got my back brace on. Anyway, so yeah, the vote curing is at most 5 days, and last year was 1 day. And it may be, I mean, if everybody, we certainly said be sure to sign your ballot envelope 53 times this year. So people learn. I think there's a learning curve here. I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of people who didn't sign, but you never know. So the ballot curing process, if needed, we do it as quickly as we can. And Eclectic gets back to us with their final count. And if we have any questions as a committee about something Eclectic reported that's not clear to us, we talk to them and we come up with our final report. What we need to do is have a vote for the committee, which is an administrative vote, to certify the election. Once we have the final report from Eclectic, when cured the ballots and all that, we certify the election and issue the report to the village of the voting results. And then we rock and roll, and Larry will go get that wine that you were talking about.
Okay. So my question
What's the
is,
timing?
what are the meetings that we need to plan between now and the end of May?
Okay, we should have a meeting. Well, on the 21st, we can do a lot. We should have a meeting the next day by Zoom of the election committee on the 22nd. And I've got the entire day flexible, so whatever time works for you all on the 22nd.
Okay.
22nd of May is a Thursday, I believe. Yeah, I'm looking at the calendar.
I'm good for whatever.
Okay, Nomi, Elizabeth, how's your Thursday look?
I don't, I'll have to look downstairs. On the
Okay.
main calendar, I don't have it in front of me here.
Okay.
Are you
send us an
talking
email.
about an evening?
No, we're
meeting?
talking about a very short, like 20-minute meeting to vote to certify the election on the 22nd. If there are no ballots still waiting to be cured, we can go ahead and do that on the 22nd. And then Larry and I need to certify the voter roll on the 22nd as well. So we're talking about a short meeting on the 22nd. Could be 20 minutes,
Okay.
anytime during the day.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth and Nomi, get back to us and let us know when. Larry and
So
I are
I'm
Yeah.
okay at 7:30.
7:30 the 22nd.
Yeah,
Okay.
And that's probably fine with me too, but I will confirm it.
Okay, and again, we're just talking a very short administrative meeting to take care of the certifications.
And when is the election report due?
The election report comes out as soon as we're ready to issue it. When we have had all our questions satisfied, when we've cured any ballots that need to be cured, and we have the final count from the vendor, the committee basically votes to certify the election and issue the report, and I'll have a draft report ready for you guys at that point. So,
And it looks
Yeah.
like the one here from 2024.
it'll look similar to the one that you have in the packet for this meeting,
Okay,
which is a
all right.
summary. Last year's committee, interestingly, voted to like make two reports. They wanted to do the main voting outcome report as a short standalone, and then they put all the write-in stuff on a second and
Yeah, I
said it's
saw that.
available on request. And we had probably, I don't know, 6 or 8 people called the committee and said, I want to see it. And we gave it to them individually, but we also posted it. And so this year, I think we should just skip that and just do it all in one big report. I think
Mhm.
that's, my preference last year. I got outvoted this year. I think we just do one big report. Okay, and we issue that as soon as we're satisfied.
And when do you think that might occur?
Could be as early as the 22nd. If there are ballots that still need to be cured, it could be as late as the 25th or 26th. Does that make sense,
Hello?
Larry? What was your question?
Well, I'm just thinking. I don't, know that it should be that tight onto the election.
Well, it's 5 days for ballot curing. We're required by the regs to get back to Eclectic about any cured ballots by 6 days. That's our timeline as a committee.
Okay,
And then Eclectic basically adds those votes into the vote tally that they have from the 21st, and gives us their final ballot count. And then we basically put it in the format that we want to issue the results.
well, if
Normally, we
we-
do it as quickly as we can.
what was the date last year?
Last year, we issued the main election results on the 29th of May and came back with the supplemental report and had that long list of write-ins on the 30th.
I'll just say,
Okay.
like for this, Marty, is we start getting questions pretty quick from residents
Exactly.
about where the report is,
Yeah,
what the
people wanna
holdup
know.
is. And so even if you can't issue that report, we probably should say something in that Friday wrap up as to why we can't issue the report or something. Obviously, we don't need to cross this bridge now, but just as a word of the wise.
Well, I agree, because I also get those calls.
Yeah.
Like people want instant results. Even in an uncontested election, which always struck me as very interesting, that they want to know the results. That's
They just
fine.
want
They're
to they just want to see if someone wrote their name in. That's it.
Yeah, I wonder about that. I mean, I really do. And in any case, we will do it as quickly as we can because that is good practice. Just in general, you get the results as soon as you know they're accurate. There was one year back in the day when we had preliminary results, um, and they changed by one vote, right? Where Eclectic hadn't counted something. I don't remember. I wasn't on the committee that year, but there was a slight discrepancy between the sort of unofficial report that the committee put out sooner, and then the final numbers were a little different. I mean, it didn't change the outcome. It just the numbers changed a little bit, and I was not clear as to what happened there. But whatever. Um, we will get it accurate, and we will get it fast, as fast as we can. Okay. Anything else on 21st? Larry, Elizabeth,
No,
Nomi,
No?
okay. Arthur, any questions from you? Okay, and Michael, I'll let you
Nothing
know.
for me.
Okay, I'll let you know the announcement that will go out that says to the candidates and the voters that, if they want to observe the vote counting, this is the zone and all that. So I'll get you that, as soon as the committee approves it. All right, we'll have that announcement ready to go shortly, sooner nearer the 21st. Okay, I think, Michael, we can let you go off duty if you want, because our next thing is just discussing the final report and the procedures manual, unless you have any other election issues you'd like to bring up for us tonight.
Nope, I think that's everything for tomorrow. So I'll see you all there. Thank you all so much for all your work on this. It's going to be a good election tomorrow. And one last thing, it is rain or shine. So I don't care what the weather is. I will be there, and we have tents just in case.
We will too. I'll tell you one thing, Michael. The weather report says it's going to be clear tomorrow afternoon. That,
Yeah.
this rain is tonight, but tomorrow. But if it is a downpour, one of the things in one of the elections that I worked where it was a downpour, we had a canopy over us,
Mhm.
but we got soaked from behind. And so what we did was we tried to rig up a shower curtain where we taped a shower curtain, a clear shower curtain,
Yes.
along the back of the canopy so that it hung behind us to try to stop the downpour from blowing into us. And that sort of semi worked. So if it's a downpour, should I bring my spare shower curtain? And you got duct tape, right?
Yeah.
I think we'll be okay.
I think we'll be fine. It's not
yeah.
supposed to rain.
I have multiple of those little like easy up tent things, so maybe we'll put you directly in the middle of it.
Okay. And the weather looks good. We're going to count on Keith Allen to come through on sunny weather.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Michael-
All right, y'all. Have a good night. See you tomorrow.
Thank you much.
bye, thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Okay. Team, let's talk about the final 2025 election report. I've talked to each of you separately, and you each have different sections of it that we've discussed. And one of the pieces, obviously, is the simple, management log of, what worked this year and what didn't work this year, what could be done better next year. And I have that in draft form. I haven't sent it around yet because it's not finished. But our final election report will come out in June. Arthur, you remember we've been doing these June reports every year that I've been on the committee. summing up the year and looking at recommendations for next year. And so one section of that is just, what's the management report for this year? That's fairly straightforward. Another section of that final report would be issues where something didn't work and where we may need to recommend a different procedure on something. And sort of a problem analysis, which is typically part of a management report I would do on any project I did. And Elizabeth and Larry have talked about ways to think about doing a clearer job description or position description for
Oh.
council members so that
The subject is how to, measures to increase participation of, people to participate in running for election. So the position description idea, and there are a few others that we have, like annual report and, some publicity type things along that line about what the council achievement reports, whatever marketing style, are measures that would inform, that would help people know what the council does. So if I run for office, what are the expectations here? And so that was the vein in which at least I was thinking that a position description could be drafted and submitted along with some other ideas for other things. Like I've just this week received a very interesting glossy pamphlet style annual report from one of the organizations that I give some money to, and that could be a model. I know
good.
Michael told me that he tried to do an annual report last year, but it wasn't successful in the way it was put together. It was kind of too long and boring, I think. And so it needs to be something that's really more PR oriented to give a quick overview of major achievements. And so
Elizabeth, I think
that was
Elizabeth,
my idea.
I think there's two documents you have there. One is like, what's the village doing? And the other is, what's the job of a council member?
Right.
I think you mentioned it before, and it really intrigued me. And I should put something together, a draft to circulate, just so people know what they're getting involved in. What is the job? What do you do when you're, what is
Exactly.
involved?
That's right. Larry and I were actually going to draft something anyway, a generic type thing based on our understanding of what the council does that could go into that. You know what I'm saying? And then maybe it's something that could be developed, that you could have somebody that's a good writer, that could just draft it, or an editor for these kinds of things. But we just felt that if that were circulated by the election committee when we're putting out the notices that, inviting people to run for the office, it might have a much, you might get more people signing up for it if they can really see what's entailed. And I've often wondered that myself, was sort of.
The problem is what Arthur needs is so in-depth and might come across as onerous. It actually might be a turnoff. Whereas what we're after is an inspirational, you can make changes, you can be a benefit to your village, etc.
Well, yeah, a little more specific than that.
Which is a totally different, I mean,
A different angle.
That's why I volunteered to go to Vietnam. See, all those recruiters giving all that.
Oh God, Larry, what an awful example. Jeez Louise.
So the deal is, our job, Elizabeth, is to encourage people to want to sign up. And if you actually give them a clear insight,
no, I wasn't talking about a technical description, but I think they do need to know the major, decision-making areas that, I've got a sample. I actually sent it to you, but that was a very first draft, Larry. I don't know if you ever looked at that.
I did.
Just off the top of my head. And I think it can be simplified, but, and of course there has to be an upfront part that, that has that wonderful glowing big picture, the sort of the
Right.
value statement or whatever about, all the good things that we do.
Yes. So,
And
I-
I honestly think it might have a positive effect, because you can't ask people to go there and commit that amount of time without, I've lost something's jumped in front of my screen there. Okay.
right.
The commitment of time is significant to be on the council. So I think there's an onus to let people have a peek at what
what they're
goes
buying
on.
and
Yeah,
what they're
exactly.
getting into. Yeah. And I've had many council members, Arthur, you'll probably say this too, say that they really didn't have a clue until they'd actually served for at least a year.
Oh,
And,
that's certainly right. Yeah.
and
I
it
actually,
really,
I was thinking of having the bathing suit issue of the monthly newsletter. That might,
might attract attention, but we're
right.
we're not sexist, Arthur, so we don't go that way. Unless, of course, you're being equal opportunity bathing suit.
No,
Yes.
it was everybody.
Okay. All right. Anyway, my thought on that final election report is that it will have several components to it, like
Yeah.
different sections or chapters, and we should aim to have it done in draft form for us, like the first week of June, and be able to edit it and put it together in final form by the June council meeting, which I believe is June 15th. Arthur, is that right?
Uh, Something like that.
I'm looking at my June calendar here. June 19th is the third Thursday.
Yeah.
So we might want to have it ready for that council meeting. So which means that we should have our committee drafts of the various components of that report ready
Mhm.
the week before, like around the June 11th or something like
Yeah.
that, just as a target
But-
date to work toward.
But the idea here is would like some action to be taken on that. In other words, it's not just an idea we're putting out, but the idea is we're actually making a proposal for
Right.
this to be done as an innovation, and be ready for the next election cycle.
Exactly. So we're putting materials and proposals in the hands of the next year's
Right.
committee and council.
Yeah,
And that's a good thing to do. I mean, that's a very positive contribution to the village to say, here's pieces that we think are missing, and here's examples of how you could do it.
yeah, they would just be samples, and then they could be taken further by somebody who might be contracted to develop them.
So
Okay.
Larry?
well, I seem to, so we used to use, what is it, GoToMeeting, which is a competitor to Zoom, to do,
Yes.
educational courses and conferences. And, one of the things that we, liked about it was the fact that, so you'd find somebody who really, they knew their topic. They were going to be a benefit, but they'd never spoken to a group, and they had no concept of how to be or how to prepare for being on something like Zoom. And GoToMeeting had a little training session where people could go through with them and show them what they would have on their computer, how they could set it. I mean, like right now, we all have our backgrounds, except for Elizabeth. Backgrounds are fuzzed out or whatever, and they have these kinds of options so that they feel comfortable. And I thought to myself that one of our candidates was very uncomfortable this time. And
At
I
the
thought
forum?
to myself, it would go a long way. We all know how hard it is to make sense and speak well in that situation, that an orientation of how Zoom is used in something like that might be a beneficial thing to offer the candidates.
Write it up, Larry. We can put it in as a recommendation as a component,
Okay.
a service to the candidates to do a
Okay.
little Zoom training for them if they want. We can't tell them what to say, but we could certainly help them get comfortable
Okay.
with a Zoom presentation. That's
All
something
right.
that is within our bailiwick.
All right. So I'll put that down along with fries and a Big Mac. Okay.
There you go. There you go. My state here is that we should basically each of us work on the components that we're doing. I'm doing the management log piece and the overall um, election mechanics report, and you guys are doing these other sections, including recommendations for next year. So, and we're looking at a target date of like June 10th or 11th to really have that draft ready to circulate amongst ourselves so we can put the pieces together before the council meeting the following week. Okay? Target date,
What target date?
say June 10th. Let's say June 10th. To have our various draft components ready and circulated by June 10th.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, the other piece, if I'm moving along here from our final 2025 election report, is number 4 on our agenda, discussion of the procedures manual. And this is something that's very close to Nomi's heart and mind, to write down all these procedures that we go through. And Elizabeth, when we talked about this at last month's meeting, you also mentioned including templates of all the documents that we produce each year. And I've been trying to put that together.
Mhm.
And the manual is kind of on me because, as you all have pointed out to me, a lot of those procedures are in my head, but they aren't necessarily written down everywhere. I mean, we have a fairly detailed set of election regs that refer to these procedures, but knowing what documents we need to produce when and all that is really, you know, sort of just experience. And
Well,
I've been
you've got the timeline, so maybe that could be the outline. And
exactly,
you just plug in the appropriate document, that the sample that was sent
exactly,
anyway now at
exactly,
under that particular heading. That would be an easy way to do it. And it would be less confusing also because you'd be following the real timeline. I think
yeah,
instead of having to go look in a separate place or match them up or something.
exactly. I started putting that together, and
Mhm.
it's about 100 pages of stuff.
Oof,
Yeah.
wow.
So I
But you
haven't done
don't,
it.
for example, you don't have to have every single weekly wrap up that you sent. You could have
Mhm.
one and say, this is the sample weekly wrap up, and you just, you change you know what I'm saying? Because you did
Well,
so many of those, but they were basically the same thing. Well, a lot of
right.
them.
They
Well,
start out with, recruiting candidates, and then they go to, are you on the voter roll? There's a set of weekly wrap-ups on the voter roll, how you sign
Uh-huh.
up for the voter roll. Are you a new voter? Da da da. Then there's a set of, here's the time to vote, here's the forum. I mean, so they
Okay,
track the topics as we go. I mean, I think of this election process as a train. It's got many stations. There's a real tight sequence to what you do when.
yeah,
And there are the documents that you issue at each point along that train line,
sure.
um, saying what the next station on the
well,
train is.
okay. So was it Naomi that was talking about a template?
Yes, well, Naomi and Elizabeth both said that they thought it would be good to include in the procedures manual the actual templates of the documents.
Well,
I
and
agree.
I think Elizabeth, you were just saying we don't need all of them. We just need a template of one of them.
No,
Oh,
each of the documents need to be its own template.
No, I mean in the situation of these notices that were being sent out. I think Elizabeth was saying we only need one.
some of them seem to be the same one that were sent
Yeah.
out more than
And
once.
so
So
what
that's
what
all I meant
what
was you
what we
can
might
maybe
want to
you
do,
have a weekly reminder as you get closer and closer, and it's
right?
this
The
don't
weekly
need,
reminder template, right?
yeah,
And an example of how we did it. But what I was going to suggest is that above it or below it, we have a thing of be sure it includes and some little brief tag things about what should be in it.
Right.
Because that's also important that that you don't miss something. Okay.
The
right.
doc,
Hmm.
the
Because we've
document
done
should
that
have,
ourselves. This cycle, we did that ourselves. We left things out and then said, hey, oh, let's put this in.
the document should have everything in it. Should be a turnkey operation.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'll aim for. But
This
I
should
did
be,
want to tell you that as I started to actually try to put that together, that procedures manual, um, it's a bigger job than I initially thought. And I'm doing exactly what Elizabeth suggested, which is just following our timeline
Yeah.
step by step through the entire process, starting in really, September, October, and carrying it right through the end of June, what needs to be done when, with the documents sorted along that timeline. And it's going to take me a while. And so I don't know how soon. I mean, the one that we have to do is the election report that we just finished talking about, item number 4 on our agenda today. or item number 3, the 2025 election report, that's the priority. The procedures manual is also a priority for me,
Right.
but I'm expecting to be able to get to it after we have the basic 2025 election report pretty much done, is when I'll be able to do the procedures manual. And again, it would be a work in progress for next year's committee to benefit from and use.
You might
So
want
I'm
to
look-
circulate and sometime before you get it completely done, a sample of it to just have a look at the format and how it's looking to see if that's, if everybody feels that's the best way, but you know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely, I would very much like your input on
that
it
you
from all
don't
of
put
you.
more work into it than is necessary, let's
Right.
say,
Right,
that it's still
right.
very
It-
clear. Okay.
Yeah.
What-
It was bigger than I expected, and when I looked at how to actually start putting it together and started on it, it's like,
Mm.
okay, we need to allocate some serious time for that. But I do want your input on it because I think you all are just terrific editors and smart. So yeah, it is a great idea. It needs to be done. It fills in a lot of the blanks that aren't covered in the regs, but how you carry out the regs, how you
Yeah.
individually as committee members carry out the regs.
And
Um,
another thing, another idea I have about that, Marty, is that because of its length, it might be more accessible if it's done if as an online publication by sections or something like this, you see, so
That's
that
my
you're
plan.
not, it's not a book form, but more like you go to the chapter and verse that you want, and it's easy to find that from the
Mhm.
outline.
Yeah, that
And it-
implied. I thought about
And
that,
it, and
and
it
I thought
takes you
about
down,
that would
down.
require a table of contents or an index. And I thought, well, I've indexed things before, on other projects I've done, and indexing can take a week.
Well, no, I
But
mean,
yeah,
you're using your calendar as your index. That's what I meant.
oh, okay, rather than subject, yeah.
Yeah, but so within the item, in other words, if you wanted to dive into some later date to look something up, you wouldn't have to go through a whole book from A to Z. You could see from this is going to be posted on the website, right?
One would assume that the procedure manual would be
Right.
posted on the website. Not
What I
necessarily
meant was
this
that
year,
maybe
but
it could be posted in pieces like that, so that by date, so that you'd go to the date and you'd see whatever was there behind it,
Mhm.
whether it's the overview and then it's the examples, the sample documents.
okay. Well, this is all very helpful, and
It's just a
again,
suggestion, but
it's
because
exactly right. I think it
yeah, it's
needs to be
thinking about
online.
how people would use it. So we should think
Yeah.
about that first before you get the whole thing written up. And maybe
Exactly.
Michael could help. Maybe there's something in the software that they use to, publish on the web there that could facilitate that process of publishing it in a way that makes it the parts accessible without having to
Well-
go into the whole.
What I found amazing was Mike, what's his name? Zelensky's first name. Is he Mike?
Vladimir?
No.
Volodymyr,
No,
not that
our,
Zelensky. You're
our-
Oh, Michael Zelensky. Michael Zelensky, who helped write the charter. Is that who you're talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah,
Mike
yeah.
Zelensky, yes.
So, do you remember his letter?
Oh, yeah. He
He
looked
said-
for, the records on this, and he was
He
a very
said-
thorough researcher, and he was just like, oh my God, how do I find stuff on our website, on the
Well,
election stuff?
but he said he went to the website and found a whole list of stuff that if you paid me $1,000, I couldn't find.
Yeah, you could.
So, no, I'm serious.
I hear you, Larry.
Did you read that list of what
I
he was
did.
able to look
And I've
at?
talked to Michael about redoing the election page, the election committee section of the website. I had no voice in how that got formatted, that page.
Right.
It's not intuitively obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've talked, I think, to Larry about, and to Michael about, is putting like the current information up front,
Yeah.
so easier to find, and again, reorganizing that election committee documents. I mean, those election documents need to stay on the website. They can't be deleted. They're part of the legal record. But they also are not in a way, not on those pages in a way that is intuitively clear for somebody looking for information. And so that's a bigger project for next year's committee to sort of tackle.
Well, my
How you
point
organize
was
that
that
page.
if Michael could give us some idea where on the website he found these things,
Hmm.
it might be highly educational for us to then see do we have to integrate with that? You know?
Yeah, I did talk to Michael
That's-
Zelensky about that. And I had that conversation, exactly that conversation, of the process he used to find what he was looking for and ways that we as a committee or next year's committee could organize that website so that it's much easier to work with if you're just, a civilian, right? Trying to find out the information about what happened in an election.
Yeah,
Or so
Alright.
yeah, Mike Zelensky was willing to be helpful on that and really was helpful.
Yeah.
And I took notes. So
okay.
again, the redesign or the reorganization for clarity of the election committee information on that webpage on the website is another fairly sizable project. And Michael, our manager, our village manager, Michael Silliman, agrees that it's not as user friendly as it should be. So he's on the same page we are in terms of reorganizing the election information that's on the VMA website in some way that's more accessible, more obvious to people how to find things. So yeah, that's an ongoing project. Not this year's project, but we
Right.
can certainly include recommendations along those lines in our procedures manual or in our report, in our 2025 election report is one section of the report. Recommendations for the future is one section of our
Well,
2025.
are we, okay, so are we at the point where we're ready for residents' comments here?
Yeah, we have any residents present? Arthur, you want to say anything?
No, I have nothing.
So, what's next, Marty?
Next is schedule the June committee meeting and final report. Well, we scheduled the final report, our basically internal due date to draft our 2025 election report components is June 10th, and June committee meeting should be shortly thereafter. So what days work with you? I'm pretty flexible. Again, if the council meeting is June, hang on, I'm looking at the calendar. The council meeting is June 19th. It would be ideal to have our meeting certainly no later than maybe the 13th, Friday the 13th of June, an auspicious day. Or how about June 11th, which is when we're gonna have our draft documents ready.
How about, what's wrong with the 16th? Why are we,
Monday the 16th doesn't give me time to put together the committee report for the council meeting.
well,
Michael
I
needs
thought
our
we were
committee
doing
report on
that.
Monday.
I thought we said we were doing that earlier.
Michael needs the EC report for that council meeting that Monday, the 16th, which means we need to meet a couple days before the 16th, so I have time to draft the report. Right? I'm not talking about the big year-end report. I'm talking about the monthly report to the council meeting.
Okay, like 12th.
So it'd be best to have actually our meeting on the 9th. June 9th would work for me best. It's a Monday
What day
night.
of the week is that?
That's a Monday, and Mondays usually have worked for us this year.
Okay,
So next committee meeting is on June 9th.
yeah, I think that'll be okay.
Naomi?
That's fine
Okay,
with me.
no. Monday, okay, June 9th. All in
Okay.
favor, please say aye. June 9th is our
Aye.
next.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
7:30. And let's make that also the due date for our draft on the 2025 election report. So that's the meeting where we'll go over that. Okay?
Okay,
June 9th?
Is that what's referred to as final report there in that?
Yeah,
agenda?
yeah. Item number 3 on our action item, the final 2025 report. All right, will be
Okay.
the main
It's the
topic.
final election report, is that?
Right. Then it's not the procedures manual, but the final election report, which will have
Right.
several sections in it.
Okay, we'll
And
have a draft,
June 9th.
June
okay.
9th. Okay,
So June 9th is the next EC meeting and the final report, internal due date for us to go over the final report. And that will be the main item on the agenda for that meeting. Any
and that
other?
would be our final meeting.
That will be our final meeting of the year, and I'd love to hold it on your back porch, on your deck, with a glass of wine. But that may be down the road a ways. Anything else?
How about your front porch?
My front porch may be being painted at that point, but whatever, it's available for everybody too. So.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll plan on that, the location of that. We'll probably do it by Zoom because that works for everybody. But in any case.
So just one logistical question. Since this final report is going to have these different pieces, you're doing some, Marty, Larry and I are providing some things. Don't we have to, somebody has to compile those into a
Right,
kind of,
right.
right?
My
So
thought is that we circulate them before June 9th to each other.
the different parts. Mhm.
Right, and and I or you can compile them into, the final piece, which
All
we
right.
would look at on June 9th. So yeah, we should write our pieces of it sooner rather than later so people can look
Sure.
at it and put it
Yes,
together before
ahead
June
of
9th.
time. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so,
And I would love to have, you guys do that because it doesn't need to be me doing it. It certainly doesn't. I'll write my components, and then we'll see where we are from there. Okay,
all right.
thank you. I think we're done. It's 8:48 p.m.
And
an
it
hour
is
and 50
still
minutes.
raining out.
Yes, but it will be dry tomorrow, Arthur. It will be
Yes.
dry tomorrow.
This
Like-
tonight is a good test for the water task force to see
Right.
what happened. I had one ear out on the window here open to my backyard because, and I was timing how long that torrential downpour was lasting. It lasted about 20 minutes, really heavy, no?
Yeah.
So I was
How's
gonna,
is your yard underwater?
I can't see from up here, so I'm gonna go put my boots on and go out there and see what's going on.
Okay, be
So-
careful.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, just-
I'm looking at the weather radar. It's still going by. We still have another 30 minutes of it at least.
Uh-huh, okay,
So I'd like to move to end the meeting.
yes,
We have a
8:48,
motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
second,
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
yes,
Aye.
We
Okay.
are adjourned as
So
of,
wait a minute, Marty.
8:49.
Marty, I
Larry,
just
what?
want to say, you guys, just so you all know, believe it or not, Michael was at the recycling event on Sunday.
So was
Uh,
I.
And it went, I mean, all by himself. Well, there was a person from Section 5 there too. But I just, he really, the guy really does a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just such a
That's
pleasure
right.
to see him.
I try to take some of the load here, but he insisted on coming. He wanted to hear everything, all his tasks. Okay.
Yeah,
I
he did. He
appreciate both
actually,
of you.
I had stuff. He actually reached into my car and took my bags out and took them over to the truck, for example. So, and I had the same thought. My goodness, he never rests. Here it is a day off and he's
Yeah.
working again.
Lucky to have him. Lucky to have him.
Okay, I am
Good night,
going to
everybody.
stop the recording and end the
Okay.
meeting.
Good night, all.
Good night,
Hasta
everybody.
luego.
Thank